Thank you for choosing Aurora Rally Equipment, and welcome to the Aurora 790 Rally Kit installation video. We will guide you step by step on how to install the kit on your bike. Installation should take 6 to 8 hours in total, depending on your skill level. Please remember that if you don't feel comfortable at any stage of the installation, to contact either a professional or us. Prevention is always better than a cure. Start by carefully opening the kit box. Take out the kit parts and put them on a clean surface. Here's a list of the tools you need to install the kit on your bike. Start disassembling the bike by removing the windscreen using a T30 Torx socket. Remove the GPS mount cover. Remove left and right parts of the headlight mask. First, remove the bolts and then pull them gently upwards, taking care not to break the tiny plastic guides. Time to remove the center part of the headlight mask. Use a flat screwdriver to create a small gap between the center part and the headlight. Remove the mask spoilers from both sides by undoing the 4 Torx bolts. Remove the 2 Torx bolts that support the LCD screen on the headlight mask. Remove the lower bolt on the right-hand side of the head mask. Disconnect the LCD speedo from the harness. Remove the mask supports from the bike. Start with the bolt that mounts on the headlight mask, then remove the 2 bolts on the frame of the bike. Remove the 4 bolts that secure the headlight on the mask. In order to remove the headlight, create a small gap between the 2 parts of the headlight mask just above the headlight. Disconnect the headlight connector. Pull the aluminum spacer towards the left side of the bike and store away. Use a flat screwdriver and disconnect the turn indicator connectors. Remove the flash relay. Disconnect all the remaining connectors and remove the sub-harness from the bike. Remove the 4 bolts that secure the headlight mask on the frame of the bike. Take off the headlight mask by taking care not to damage the cables or the connectors. Take your time and don't rush. Cut the zip ties that keep them on the bracket. Detach the connectors from the support bracket. Disconnect all of them. Remove the bracket from the bike by undoing these two bolts. Time to prepare the Aurora parts for installation. Starting with the spider clamp, remove the 4 M6 nuts that keep the bolts in place. We will not be using these. Remove the U-bolt. Remove the small bracket from the LCD speedo. Keep the bolts, the aluminum inserts, and the rubber grommets as we will use them on our backplate. Keep in mind that the aluminum inserts are 2 parts, upper and lower. The Aurora backplate has 2 available spaces, one for the KTM LCD screen and one for a GPS unit. If you wish to install the LCD on the upper position, remove the 4 bolts that keep the small plate in place and relocate it on the lower position. In our installation, we will mount the LCD on the lower position. This way, the upper position can be used to install a GPS, mobile phone, or a similar device. Put the rubber grommets and the aluminum inserts in place. Position the LCD on the inserts and turn the backplate over. Put the remaining inserts in place and secure the LCD in place using the original bolts. Do not over-tighten. Time to remove the remaining parts from the headlight mask. Remove the turn indicators. Remove the power socket by gently pushing it from the inside of the mask. Remove the plastic nut and detach the socket from the small bracket. Remove the immobilizer unit from the inside of the mask. Push these 2 plastic clips with a screwdriver to release the bracket from the mask. Remove the air temperature sensor from the mask. Remove the indicators from the plastic bracket. Use a 13mm wrench to remove the nut that supports the indicator on the bracket. Using the same nuts and washers, install the indicators on the Aurora tower. The indicator mounts are removable and adjustable. Should you want to race with the bike, you can easily remove the tower fins by simply undoing 4 M6 bolts in total. Adjust the position of the indicator bracket and secure the 2 M6 bolts. Install the power socket on the back plate by using the original plastic nut to secure it in place. Time to install the spider clamp on the bike. Position the U-bolt on the headstock. Place the spider head clamp in place. It's a tight fit between the original headlight supports and the Aurora spider clamp, thus, you may need to push it firmly in place. Put the washers and the nuts on the U-bolt. Put the M6 bolts with the wide washers on the 4 original mount points. Leave these bolts loose. Start tightening the nuts on the U-bolt using a torque wrench set at 25 Newton meters. Tighten them gradually and sequentially, trying to keep the same amount of thread visible at both sides. Tighten the 4 M6 bolts using a torque wrench set at 9 Newton meters. Time to install the main tower part on the bike. Pass the wiring harness through the big hole on the left side of the main tower part. Route the harness to the center of the main part, just under the black spacer. Use a zip tie to secure the harness in this position. Connect the cables coming from the handlebars at the appropriate side of the tower. Left ones to the left, right ones to the right. Leave the remaining connectors for the sub-harness at the middle of the tower. Use the included Tessa cloth tape to cover the connectors and avoid rattling noises. Create 2 connector groups, one for the left side and one for the right side. After finishing with the tape, connect the small black-red connector. Time to prepare the sub-harness. Plug the air temperature sensor on the harness. Separate the harness as indicated on the screen. On one side, we have 2 connectors for the indicators, the LCD display connector, the lights connector, the indicator relay connector, the immobilizer connector, and the power socket connector. On the other side, we have the temperature sensor, 3 connectors that plug on the main wiring harness, and 4 connectors for the accessory power outlets. Use the Tessa cloth tape to prepare the sub-harness for installing it on the tower. Connect the 3 connectors of the sub-harness to the main wiring. Use the Tessa cloth tape to cover the connectors. The cloth tape will protect the harness from dust and also prevent rattling noises. Remove the third from the top bolt and spacer on the main part of the tower. Put the sub-harness inside the main part of the tower and use the spacer to secure the harness in place. Remove the first bolt and spacer and pass the harness to the top of the tower. Leave out the connectors for the immobilizer and the indicator relay. Time to install the front tower part. Remove the third and fourth bolts and spacers from the main tower. Put the connectors inside the front part at the space behind the headlight. Push the front part in its position. Align the cutout on both sides with the bolts on the anti-vibration mounts. These anti-vibration mounts will reduce the overall vibration in the tower. Take care to put the small spacer inside the tower. Install the fourth spacer and its bolt back into its place. In order to install the third spacer and bolt, we recommend removing the indicators from the tower. This way, you will have more space to work and it will be easier to install it. Pass the connectors of the lights toward the top between the first and second spacer. Use zip ties to secure the immobilizer unit on the right side of the tower and the indicator relay on the left side. Put the indicators back in place and guide their cables toward the top through the first and second spacer, just like you did with the lights. Use a zip tie to secure the cables on the first spacer to avoid rattling noises. Time to install the top part of the tower. Remove the first and second bolts from the main part. Install the top part in its place and pass all the cables through it. Put back the spacers and the bolts. Put the windscreen on the tower. As the Zeus receptors are brand new, they might need some help to get them secured. Try pushing the retainer clip with your finger toward the bolt. Put something soft between the headlight and the fender. The goal is to secure the tower on the clamp as far from the fender as possible. If there is help available, ask them to keep the tower away from the fender till you secure the head clamp bolts. Start with the lower bolt. Use a torque wrench set at 25 Newton meters. Make sure all the M6 bolts on the tower are loose. Move the windscreen back and forth to make sure that all the bolts on the adjustable slots of the tower can move freely. Leave the screen on its rest point and tighten the M8 bolts using a torque wrench set at 25 Newton meters. Start with the bolts on the main tower part. First, tighten the fourth bolt, then the third, the second, and the first. Time to secure the M6 bolts on the top tower part. Align the polymer parts with the tower and secure the bolts with a wrench. Make sure you have similar alignment on both sides of the tower. Use a torque wrench set at 9 Newton meters to secure the bolts in place. Use a long 4mm Allen key to secure the pin holders of the windscreen. Use a smaller Allen to keep the pin holder from spinning while you tighten it. Use a 10mm wrench to tighten the M6 anti-vibration dampeners on the top part of the tower. Use a 13mm socket to hand tighten the M8 anti-vibration dampeners on the lower part of the tower. Use 2 zip ties to secure the temperature sensor on the designated space at the left side of the tower. This is our recommended position for the USB charger. You can also mount it at any desired location by drilling 2 small holes on the tower or the back plate. The bolts that secure the headlight on the tower are the same bolts you will use to adjust the beam height. The top ones are for the high beam, and the lower ones are for the main beam. Adjust them according to your needs. Consider that you may have a pillion or a loaded bike. Use zip ties to secure the wiring that comes from the handlebar switches at the point it enters in the tower. Remember to turn the steering toward each direction to check if there's enough slack on the cables. Time to install the CAN bus controller. Connect all the cables on the controller with the main connector facing the front. Use 4 zip ties to secure the controller on the tower. Leave the zip ties loose enough for the controller to have some slack and movement. Use a zip tie to secure the indicator connectors on the tower, avoiding rattling noise. Connect the LCD display on the harness. Put the lower M6 bolts that secure the backplate on the tower. Leave them loose for now. Connect the power socket. Put the upper M6 bolts in. The backplate angle is adjustable. Check that the desired position doesn't interfere with the steering when fully locked left or right. Secure the M6 bolts on the tower. Switch the ignition on and check that all the lights work. The position light turns on when you switch the ignition on. When you press the passing signal, both the main beam and the high beam will turn on. This is to check that all the lights work properly in a stationary position. Please note that the main beam will illuminate when the bike is in gear and starts rolling. This way, you can work on the bike with the switch on to check other things without draining the battery. Once you start rolling and the lights go on, they will stay on until you turn off the ignition. Time to put some protective tape on the tanks. There are 2 small rolls of tape with your kit, one for each side of the bike. Measure and cut the tape in order to protect the whole area underneath the fairing bracket. Remove the 2 Torx bolts. Install the fairing bracket using the supplied spacers and bolts. Put the supplied adhesive protective foam underneath the Zeus receptors. If you need to swap the high beam with the street-legal Hella LED light, follow this procedure. Remove the screen and the first M8 bolt from the main tower part. Remove the front M6 bolts and tilt the backplate toward the steering head. Disconnect the high beam cable. Remove the 2 M6 bolts that secure the high beam on the tower. Remove the Baja LED and the spacers from the tower. Loosen the 4 M6 bolts that secure the main beam on the tower. Put the Hella LED in the tower and install the 2 M6 bolts. Connect the high beam to the CAN bus controller. Remember to use the supplied converter cable. Adjust the headlight beam accordingly. Time to prepare the side panels. Start by installing the stickers on the panels. Clean the surface of the panels and wipe them well. Apply a light mix of water and soap using a spray dispenser. Put the sticker on the panel and use a hot gun to remove any bubbles created by trapped air. Install the quarter-turn bolts on the side panels using the supplied retainers. Install the M5 well nuts on the panel by pushing them into the holes from the rear side of the panel. Put the windscreen on the bike. Put the side panels on the bike. Start with the well nuts that connect the side panels with the windscreen. Secure the quarter-turn bolts on the fairing brackets. Your Aurora 790 Rally is now ready for its first ride. Remember to register your kit using the information on your warranty card to enjoy the benefits of a lifetime warranty where applicable. If you need more help, feel free to send us an email at the indicated address. Thank you for choosing Aurora Rally Equipment, the most advanced kit manufacturer to date.